So we had some follow up from last week, right? You and I talked about import and passwords, right? You were going to switch over to the Apple keychain
Yeah.
instead of using your subscription service. So what did you find out about that?
Well, so just a little background in case folks haven't heard that. So I switched over to LastPass and I had a
Right.
family plan a couple of years ago for a few reasons. One is I gave my mom a simple way to actually track her passwords as well. And
Hmm.
then I also didn't want my passwords on my company Mac. This is back when I had a real job. And
Yeah.
so if you put them on your keychain, it's just
This
going to
is a
be
real
there,
job.
right? Yeah, yeah. So I had switched over to LastPass. Now, in the interim, LastPass has had some security issues that we talked about, and
Yep.
it's an extra subscription, but also Apple's gotten much better. So now you can actually do family share of passwords
All
in
right. Which me
Keychain.
and my wife
And
we do.
yep. So I decided I wanted to go back to it. The problem is I have a couple hundred, right, passwords in LastPass and stuff like that. And I got thinking,
Yeah.
there's got to be an easier way than going in and redoing this. And I've done secure passwords. I've let the systems generate my passwords for quite some time, which
Yeah.
means that they're not, you
You're not
know,
typing those in. Yeah.
no, no,
You're right.
absolutely not. So,
So, and
um,
I had mentioned too that there was no way to import, at
yeah,
least as far as iOS. Well, great,
yeah.
you found a way how to do that.
Yeah, there's actually an import and an export function within the passwords system um, within anyway within Apple's keychain system. And so then I also looked, and LastPass has an export, so you
Right.
can actually export all of your passwords and everything out to a CSV, and then you can then import those in. So that's basically what you do. You sign into LastPass. You use for me, did this all on my Mac. That was the easiest way to do it.
Right.
Signed
So it's
in
through Mac
and
OS.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I used the browser extension of LastPass to export all the passwords out into a CSV. Then I took that CSV and imported it into Keychain, and it tells me which
Hmm.
ones it rejected for whatever reason. Either there was a conflict or they didn't have some of the stuff that Apple requires, like their secure notes in LastPass, because they don't have a website and a user ID and stuff like that. They didn't want to import
Hmm.
in. But it told me exactly which ones and why they didn't import in. So did that, and then I signed out and signed in as my mom because I
Hmm.
needed to get all her stuff out of there too, and did that same thing. And it was funny because I told all of our family, I said, y'all need to get out of LastPass by the end of, by Thanksgiving, so I don't have to redo the subscription. And
Right.
Dustin said, I was just yelling at LastPass yesterday. So,
So he's done with it.
he was ready to get out. I don't think Karen had migrated all of her passwords over, so she doesn't have a whole lot of
Hmm.
work to do. And Wyatt was like, I don't have any passwords in LastPass. The only thing he had been using it for was for the shared ones, like for Disney Plus and stuff like
Okay.
that. So
So
anyway,
he's
it's
been using Keychain.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
it's
Good.
not going to be as big of a deal. And so, I mean, I did all of that in the course of just a few hours. I mean, it still takes some time because it's passwords, right? You can't
Hmm.
lose this stuff. And so I've not used LastPass in about a week. Um, so it's all been keychain, and I've
Right.
got those CSVs. I've got those password protected somewhere in a nice safe place so that I have a backup in case anything didn't come across that I needed to that I didn't catch.
Right.
And yeah, it was not nearly as big of a deal as I thought it might be. So
Right. Right. Well, good deal. I think that's a good tip, especially for anyone who's looking to get off of LastPass or some other password saver or locker, and you're like, oh, I just got so many of them. I just don't want to deal with the hassle. If you do it through Mac OS, it streamlines that process for you. So, how many got rejected that you had to manually enter?
6 or 8.
Okay,
And most of
not
that
bad,
was
not bad at all.
secure notes. Like a lot of people in password managers will store like their social security number or their IDs
Right.
numbers and account numbers and some of that kind of stuff. And because those didn't have some of required info that Apple requires, like website, user ID, and password.
Yeah, username, password.
So,
Yeah.
and they don't have a way to really put secure notes in keychain. So,
Mhm.
you can hack that. You could put a fake web address and a fake user ID and a fake password, and then just use the notes section, right?
Yeah.
And put the rest of the stuff in there. You could do that, or you could use something like notes and secure it down, or
Right.
some
You could
other
like
way.
put a
So,
password on your notes now, which is what I
yeah,
do.
yeah. So, there's ways to get around it. So it's not quite as robust, but I have way more confidence that it's not going to get hacked than I
Same
ever
here.
did in LastPass. And there are other options out there, one password, and there were a couple of other new ones that were up and coming too that did this kind of stuff. But I'm all in on the Apple ecosystem, so why not use it? It's generated a pass key for my Apple ID, all of those kinds of things. So, and the other piece of this was two-factor authentication codes. So they've added the ability to do two-factor authentication codes right in Keychain as well.
Mhm.
And so I don't have to use. So I had Microsoft Authenticator, which is what I have to use, right, for my Office subscription, because
Right.
that's what you use, right? So I still have that one out there now, but I had a whole bunch of stuff in Authy, and so I don't have to use Authy anymore, which is great.
Right.
So everything's just kind of down in is all in my it's all in Keychain now. And so with
Right.
Apple, like on my Mac or whatever, it'll say, "Do you want us to pre-fill in the two-factor authentication code?" And I say yes, and it fills it in. I don't have to go find it, and I'm good to go.
Right. Right. Nice and smooth.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I like that tip. That's a really good tip.